Right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we've got some serious business to attend to, and we got to make sure I've got all the tabs open, all the tubes connected appropriately, and so on and so forth. I think it's working. That means we can go ahead and get started. Let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today, my friends, we are talking about the Biden bribes. The FD1023 form is now available for public consumption, and boy, are we going to read through it. We've got it released from Senator Chuck Grassley. So we're going to start off today going through that in detail because Grassley made a little bit of an announcement today. You can see he was out there in his John Deere hat from the cornfields of Iowa, and he was explaining why this document is so important for America and Americans and the world really to see what is happening with the Biden crime family. So he put out a video. We'll take a look at that. He also dropped an official press release to give us a little bit more backbone to this. But the big story is this document, the FD1023. And boy, we spent a lot of time here back and forth with the Oversight Committee going after Christopher Wray, saying, give me the document. And they're like, well, we'll show you the document. Remember, we had the whole Christopher Wray, the flasher at the FBI. Here's the document. Did you see it? All right, one more time. Ready? You better be ready. Here, did you see it? And then they never got to see anything. It was all redacted in the first place. So that document now has finally been dropped. And I don't know how it got dropped, but we are going to go into it. Now, there are some slight redactions on it, but it is most of the goods. So we'll go through it. Now, this is important on two levels. One, of course, is it implicates the Biden crime family and it exposes them because this is a confidential human source that provides this detail to the FBI. Explosive stuff in the contents of the document itself, sure. But the other layer to this whole thing is that the FBI presumably didn't do anything about it. They just sat on it and just said, no, what are you, 5 million big guy? What? No, what are you talking about? White supremacy. So we'll go through it. And then I want to jump over to the Oversight Committee and see what they had to say about this, because this got dropped from the Senate. And then the Oversight Committee is really the body that's been doing a lot of this heavy lifting over at the House of Representatives. And so we'll check in with both houses in Congress to see what they have to say about it. But it's a major drop. The media is covering this thing up everywhere you look. If you just go on any news site, they're all talking about ridiculous nonsense, doing everything they can to not discuss this case. But we will talk about it. And so that was where we'll start on the day. Then I want to spend some time talking about this timeline that the Oversight Committee put together, because it is really, really good. And I don't know if you've seen this before. If you want to get the links for anything that you see on this mind map as we go through the show today, you can sign up to get access to this exact mind map at robertgouveia.com. Just go on over there, sign up for the newsletter and the mind map, and you can get links to everything I'm showing you, including PDFs, all the videos. It's all there. But there is this link to the Oversight Committee. They dropped this, and it's pretty dang amazing. So you can see this is the document. We're going to spend some time going through this today, but it starts at the year 2009. Well, I got to fix the description in the title. I thought we were starting at 2014 today. I was wrong. 2009 is when all this criminality starts. And so we'll rewind the clock. Where the heck was I? What the heck was I doing in 2009? Just starting law school, man. So Biden's were, criminalizing the world all the way back then. And we'll go all the way through this, all the way down to 2023. And we're just going to go, it's like a tweet storm here. And we're going to try to piece together what is going on in video format. Look at this. Look at this criminality, man. It's all here. So we're going to spend some time on that. Should be a fun one to get into. And then we'll wrap it up with the conversation that was taking place in Congress today via the Weaponization Committee in Congress. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was there at a hearing on censorship, and the Democrats voted to censor him. Hello. Self-awareness, hello. But they are so petrified that their scam and their Democratic scheme is going to be blown into oblivion by guys like Robert F. Kennedy and by this guy tucked away right behind him. Who is that? Oh, Dennis Kucinich, an old school actual Democrat. We'd like to see more of them back in reality, but unfortunately the party's been seized by the AOCs of the world. But the point is, they were there today, and he was going to testify about why he's been suspended. Now, listen, we've experienced a lot of this. We've had videos on this channel, on YouTube, struck, and we are grateful for Rumble and locals, our family there. But this has been something that we've been dealing with for a long time. Kennedy has also been dealt with this. He had one of his interviews nuked after he got into the jab, which is a big no-no, and other reasons. And they're using this as an excuse to say he's this big racist now and that all of his voice should be silenced. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, one of the weirdest people on this planet, moved to do this because she wanted to censor him. And all the Democrats on the board all joined in, including this woman, Plaskett. She blames this whole thing on MAGA Republicans and that allowing Robert F. Kennedy, a lifelong Democrat, to testify is now MAGA Republicans winning and seizing control of America. So we'll listen to Robert Kennedy. He goes off for 10 minutes, man, and he delivers this beautiful speech on free speech and why it's so important. And you see Dennis Kucinich is right back there. He's like, yeah, baby, go. And now this is going to be a big problem for the Democrats. You know, I have to imagine that there are some sane people in that party who really do listen to this and go, you know what, I kind of missed that. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought being a Democrat was. Just like people on the right go, oh yeah, when Mitch McConnell is set aside and we actually hear conservatism and America first values and patriotic talk, we go, wow, incredible. I have to imagine there's maybe some Democrats over there that might be listening to this, maybe thinking about a third party, maybe thinking that their party has some hope left. We'll see. And that could be a big problem for the whack jobs in the left that want the status quo to march forward, where they just splice and dice the country into different classes, races, demographics, income brackets, and so on and so forth. And so, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today. As you can see, we've got RFK Jr. in the house. We've got Hunty and Joe Biden and their criminal timeline coming up. And we've got the FD1023 that the FBI has been sitting on for a long time now to cover up for the Biden crime family. We're going to go through the actual document that was released by Senator Chuck Grassley. And so we've got a lot to get to. Now, if you joined us this morning, if you were a member, then you would have been able to join us this morning. But that's if you missed it, no problem. We'll have more stuff tomorrow if you join. But we talked about UFO stuff this morning. We got into a very interesting conversation about, it was an existential conversation really, about the fabric of reality, quite frankly. What is time? Is it relative to humanity? Are we coexisting with our consciousness and the physical world in a way that they are necessary for the other to exist? It's some heavy stuff we talked about. We also talked about UFOs. There's going to be a major hearing next week that we will be covering. And Marco Rubio also said that this could be the biggest story in human history, basically saying these whistleblowers have some pretty damning evidence. And so we talked about all that this morning. Those videos will be coming out later. We appreciate our members for supporting us and joining us as we get into some of the fun stuff elsewhere. And if you want to join us, great place to do that, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where you can join up as a member on YouTube. Either way, we love to have you. And we've got some new members joining in here at the start of the show. We also do some fun stuff where we try to, every morning, hit the docket updates, hit the presidential schedule, go through the congressional committee schedule, get our bearings straight for the news on the day. And so if you're looking for a little extra fun, come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And one other reminder, robertgovea.com is now live. And if you want to access literally this entire mind map, you can go there, sign up for the newsletter, totally free. We have daily reports that are being posted that are summarizing the video. So if you'd rather read rather than watch, you can go to the website and read the reports of the video. We also have a tutorial on how to use this mind map so that you can navigate around, access the same mind map that I'm showing you on the screen. You can browse around, learn how to use it, get your PDFs, get your video files, whatever you need. So check it out, robertgovea.com. Also, want to remind you that it's a good time to get your field of greens, because we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. But how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? You know, we've all been there. We've all done that. And they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But my friends, vegetables, not a fan, and fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day, all the time? I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you will not find in any other product because proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk right in there to your doctor and he just bats it. He goes, whoa, man, this is crazy. You've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so we're going to know it's fieldofgreens.com. And you can save 15% off your first order when you go to fieldofgreens.com and enter code Robert at checkout so that you can save 15%, baby. And that is some good savings from our friends at fieldofgreens.com. Remember, the vegetables want to be eaten, my friends, okay? They are good for us. They pop out of the ground, bursting with nutrition and energy. Green energy, the good kind of green energy, and they're delicious. So make sure you get your Field of Greens and use code Robert. All right. Now let's get to it. On the day, we have some meat and potatoes. The Biden bribe documents have finally been released. We know Congress has been fighting for these files for a long time. Senator Grassley in the Senate. We've got the House of Representatives, James Comer and the Oversight Committee, been digging for this for a long time. And we had the FBI being very coy about it. What documents? FD1023? I don't even know what you're talking about. That FD1023. Oh, well, it kind of sort of exists maybe. Oh, you want to see it? Then we got a subpoena from Congress. Then Christopher Wray kind of brought it over, and now the whole thing has been released. We know this has been a long fight. We've been covering it here for a while. We're going to read through the full thing. There are some redactions. This was released from Senator Grassley's office, and so I think they're protecting names and identities, but the rest of the document is mostly available. And there are 2 layers as we go through this. One, of course, is what is inside the document that details the criminality that is existing within the Biden crime family, from Hunter to Joe to James to Hallie to all of them. But it's beyond that. It's the level of cover-up. It's not just a crime family that has somehow gotten their way into power of the most powerful country in the world. It's also the cover-up. It's also the fact that the FBI enabled this to happen. And that when there were whistleblowers, there was no investigation. They should have done something about it. They didn't. And the question is why? Does that lead to compromise of Joe Biden? Is he now doing the bidding of Christopher Wray and the FBI? Why wasn't there an investigation into all of this when if Trump so much as jaywalks, he is facing the death penalty? Well, Chuck Grassley came out from Iowa and he released the following statement. He's a senator. He said, I've released the FD1023, my friends. I've been working on getting from the FBI for a year. Now you can read it for yourself. Thanks to patriotic whistleblowers. And we love our whistleblowers here. Shout out to all the whistleblowers. Blow those whistles, my friends. And so this is Senator Grassley. Here's what he says.
Well, it's been a long time.
Indeed.
Almost a year. But thanks to patriotic people that we call whistleblowers, in this case, in the bowels of the bureaucracy of the FBI and the Department of Justice, I'm able today to release to the American people the FBI document that we go by the number 1023.
Beautiful.
That has some information that the American people might know about some shenanigans that Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden may have been involved in.
Couple shenanigans.
Now it's up to the FBI to tell us what they've done in regard to this. But I want the people to be able to read, the people of this country, to be able to read what I read 3 months ago so that they know. By the way, this was an unclassified document, and there was no reason it should have taken 1 year to get our hands on this document so the American people can read it.
And we are going to read it. They were dragging their feet on this for a long time. We know why, because they don't want us to see what's in it. And they want to bury this under all of the other news of the day. We expect a Donald Trump indictment, third one, to come out any minute now, just so that we can all be jerked a different direction. But here is the formal release from Grassley. He said the following. He says, Grassley obtains and releases the FBI record alleging VP Biden foreign bribery scheme. And this has been something that Comer's been working on too. They say they continue their joint inquiry into the FBI handling of the investigation. So again, it's not only just Biden's criminality, which is obvious and everywhere, but it's also the FBI's cover-up or their failure to prosecute. They say that today they released this. Grassley said, for the better part of a year, we've been working to release this. While the FBI sought to obfuscate and redact it, the American people can now read it. Questions. Why did the DOJ and the FBI take so long? What did they do with the detailed information in the document? Did they just read it and say, well, this is a nice report? Well, why don't we just put that over there in the someday pile? Whoop. And why have they tried to conceal it from Congress and the American people for so long? We deserve to know. So here's the comment. Grassley first disclosed the FBI's possession of this last year. We know that they had it. We know that they sat on it. Now he's been working to unearth this. We'll read through the full thing here, but he gives us some names. Polu Chile, according to the confidential human source, executives for Burisma, a Ukrainian gas company, brought Hunter on board to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. They talk about backup, and you can see there's a whole slew of additional documents here. And so without any further ado, let's get right into it. Let's make sure we've got our red pen marked and ready to go. You can see this was authorized for public release by Ranking Member Grassley and Chairman Comer. We are going to check in with James Comer and the Oversight Committee because they have their take on this as well. Now, this is the big document, FD1023, out of the FBI. This is the CHS reporting document, confidential human source. We've been waiting for this document for a while. And remember that they tell us that this source is somebody who's quite credible, near or above 6 figures of income that the FBI has paid out to this person. So somebody that the FBI deems to be reliable enough that they'll give them money. Now, the date of this disclosure, that's pretty interesting right there. What day is that? Oh, yeah. June 30th, 2020. Anything else happening around that time? Oh, yeah, the 2020 election. So we have a whistleblower who comes out who says, oh, crap, Joe Biden is like the nominee. He might actually win this thing. He's actually running here. Maybe I should talk to the FBI about it. Maybe this would be useful if the FBI did something about this, since the man is running for president. But here is what the document says. We don't see the case agent name. We don't see the field office. We don't know what squad they're a part of. None of that is available to us. But we do see that this contact happened June 30th, 2020. Some of the things are redacted. Who's there is redacted. The case file redacted. But they tell us the following. The source reporting says, on June 26, 2020, the confidential human source reported the following. Came in, met with the FBI, and here's the conversation. The first meeting with Burisma executives in Kyiv, Ukraine. The subject of this next paragraph. The dates, 2015, 2016. Trump was running in 2016, which means Joe Biden was the president during this time, vice president. In late 2015 or 2016, during the Obama-Biden administration, the confidential human source was first introduced to officials at Ukraine natural gas business called Burisma. CHS goes, meets with the leader of Burisma. His name is Alexander Ostapenko. Full ID as follows. The source and Ostapenko, they traveled to Ukraine and went to Burisma's office that was located 20 minutes away from the city center. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss Burisma's interest in purchasing a U.S.-based oil and gas business. So this source goes flying around with this executive. They're hanging outside the city in Ukraine. They're there to discuss Burisma. They're saying Burisma might be interested in purchasing a U.S.-based oil and gas business. And the reason is because we want to purchase a U.S. business merge it with Burisma, which is the Ukrainian energy company, and then we'll conduct an initial public offering in the United States. Burisma says, okay, that sounds great. We want to do business in the United States, so we'll purchase the U.S. entity for 20 to 30 million. That's going to be great. We'll get an American company. We're in Ukraine. Okay, we'll buy that company, 30 million, no problem. Then we'll merge. Then we can IPO together, and we won't have to go through all of the regulatory nonsense of a foreign company becoming an American company and then moving for an IPO, which will take a lot longer. We'll have a lot more scrutiny and all this crap. So CHS says, we'll just work it out. Let's just buy this company. Now, at this meeting, the source's former business partner, redacted, we don't know who that is, and someone else, Burisma's CFO, Vadim Porcharsky, was also there, and Karina Zolchevsky was there, the daughter of Burisma's CEO and the founder of Burisma, Mykola Zolchevsky. All these Burisma people were all there. CHS goes, tons of executives. Her husband was there. The conversation was in Russian, and thus blank did not participate therein. And that must be the source. So these people are talking in Russian, and so the source can't understand it. During the meeting, Porcharsky asked the confidential human source whether the source was aware of Burisma's board of directors. He said, no, I don't know them. Porcharsky said, well, the board members include the following people. So do you know who's on our board? No, I'm not sure who's on your board. He says, well, it's a pretty serious board. He says the board includes the Prime Minister of Poland. It also includes Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. This guy, Porcharsky, said that Burisma hired the former president and the Prime Minister of Poland to leverage his contacts in Europe. So that guy was getting the grift. And they hired Hunter Biden to quote the following quote, Hunter is going to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. Hunter is going to protect us through his daddy from all kinds of problems. The source was certain Porcharsky provided no further details about what that meant. He's like, what the hell does that mean? From all kinds of problems? Like, what kind of problems? So the source asked why they, Burisma, needed to get the CHS's assistance regarding the purchase of a U.S. company. You got Biden on your board. Why do you need to buy a company? This source is sitting there. He's like, 30 million for an American energy company? You got the vice president's son on your board. You're not going to have any problems. Porcharsky says, well, yeah, that's true. He is on this board. But he said that Hunter Biden was not smart. No kidding. And they wanted to get additional counsel. Yeah, because he wasn't useful. He's got literally no skills, no qualifications. He got jammed through law school because of his daddy, I'm sure. And all of that was set up for him. Now he's just the bag man for the Biden family. So now they put Hunter on this board. They're like, well, he's going to make this easy for us. Everybody on the board's like, this guy's an idiot. So we got to go get different counsel. They bring in the confidential human source. They say, now we got to just buy a company. The first thing that we're trying to do with Hunty didn't work out. So the group then had a general conversation about whether the purchase merger with a U.S. company would be a good business decision. You sure you want to do that? He's like, you sure you want to purchase this? So we have another section. Now we have a meeting between the CHS, Ostapenko, Mykola Zolchevsky in Vienna, Austria, 2016. So Joe Biden is still the vice president, remember, all the way up until 2017 in January. Approximately 1 to 2 months after the first meeting, the source then left. He's like, okay, well, I met with the board of Burisma. They said Hunter's an idiot. So then he traveled to Vienna, to Austria, with Ostap, and he met with Mykola Zolchevsky at an outside coffee shop. Remember, that's the executive of Burisma. He is the owner of the entire company, or the founder of the company. They say that the trio continued to talk about the feasibility of Burisma acquiring a U.S.-based entity. Okay, so wait a minute. So they're, okay, well, maybe we should purchase that company, 20, 30 million. What company? What is it going to do for us? And this confidential human source is facilitating this whole thing. So the CHS recalled this meeting. He said, okay, well, he's talking to the FBI agent. He's like, well, what happened at this FBI agent? He's like, he's probably half asleep. He's like, oh, this is a Biden investigation? I don't care. So he says, well, what happened next? He says, well, this meeting took place right around the time that Joe Biden made a public statement about a former Ukraine prosecutor called Viktor Shokin being corrupt and that he would be fired and removed from office. That's that clip from Joe Biden out there saying, I'm going to hold that $1 billion back. And doggone it, they fired the guy. The source told Zolchensky from Burisma that due to Shokin's investigation into Burisma, the prosecutor was investigating Burisma. That was made public. He says, look, you guys are being investigated. It's going to have a substantial negative impact on your IPO in the United States. You can't go public in the United States when your company is under investigation from your version of the feds. It's not going to go through our regulators. Sorry. Zolchensky said something to the effect of, the owner of Burisma, founder of Burisma, Hunter is on the board. He tells the source, don't worry about it. Hunter will take care of all of those issues through Dad. Hunter will take care of all of those issues through his daddy. The source did not ask any further questions about that. He's like, okay, well, I just heard a crime being committed. Okay. So he then asked Zolchensky, he says, well, okay, so you want to buy a company, but why would you pay 20 to 30 million to buy a U.S. company for an IPO when it would be cheaper to just form a new U.S. entity? You could just go ahead and purchase a corporate shell. It's already listed on an exchange. Just go buy a company. This guy's a business transaction guru. Says Zolchensky responded that Hunter Biden advised Burisma that we could raise much more capital if Burisma purchased a larger U.S.-based business that already had a history in the oil and gas sector. Source says, well, and I was sitting there and I recall they told me that Hunter said we should just buy a bigger company. He said that Zolchensky mentioned a couple of these businesses. He picked a couple of them in Texas. What did he tell you the names of the companies in Texas? No, I don't remember the names. But then the source says, okay, well, Zolchensky, look, I mean, it's going to be problematic to raise capital in the United States given the investigation into Burisma. So it's the same problem, right? Whether you want to start an IPO or go public with an IPO, or whether you want to purchase a big company and raise capital, they're all going to do their due diligence and they're all going to see that you're under investigation. Nobody in the United States is going to invest into the company that was the subject of a criminal investigation, is how this conversation goes. And so the source suggests, he says, it would be best for you guys, just Burisma, to simply just litigate this matter in Ukraine. You guys got to resolve it here. Pay some attorney, he's like, pay some attorney $50,000 and just make it go away. So Zolchensky from Burisma said, oh man, I mean, we can't do that though. Zolchensky said that if Burisma and if we go to trial, we're going to likely lose the trial because he says we could not show that Burisma was innocent. I can't pay to make it go away. We're not going to fight it here. We're dead to rights. I'm going to get convicted, man. That's why I got Hunter. Zolchensky also laughed at CHS's number of 50,000. He said, $50,000? He says, not because of the small amount, but because the amount contained a 5. He said, oh, 50,000, 5, yeah, 5, perfect. Everybody likes the 5 number. There's a nice round number. What does that mean? Zolchensky said to the source, he said, well, it's just convenient. It cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay another Biden. Zolchensky tells that to the source. $50,000 is very convenient. Sounds familiar. Cost us $5 million to pay the one Biden, another $5 million to pay another Biden. Now you want me to give 50 grand to some lawyer? Gosh, man, everybody's hosing me. The source noted that at the time, it was unclear to the source whether these alleged payments were already made. It cost me $5 million, or it's costing me. Hunter's already on this. It cost me $10 million to them. But then the source told Zolchensky, he said, well, hold on a minute. He's like, listen, man, if you pay the Bidens $5 million, that's going to complicate things, all right? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Like, if you actually want to resolve this, don't pay them. He says Burisma should hire some normal U.S. oil and gas investors, all right? Not Hunter. Hire a normal U.S. oil and gas advisor. Somebody who knows what they're doing, who actually will deliver results for you. He says the Bidens have no experience with that business sector at all. They don't really have any experience with any business sector other than government. Zolchensky made some comment. He said, well, although Hunter was stupid and his dog was smarter than Hunter, Zolchensky needed to keep Hunter Biden on the board so everything will be okay. Amazing. He said, well, yeah, I know the guy's a moron and dumber than my dog at home, who's a real good boy, by the way. Have you seen a picture of him? Hold on a minute. I know. Let me just show you. He says, he's dumber than my dog. But he is the vice president's son, and so I can't really fire him. Otherwise, there's going to be problems. So the source says, well, did Hunter or Joe Biden tell Zolchensky he should retain Hunter Biden? Did Hunter tell you to hire Hunter, or what happened here? Zolchensky says, well, they both did. They both told them to hire him. Did Hunter or Joe say you should hire Hunter? They both told me we should hire Hunter. Joe Biden's involved in this entire saga. He says Hunter talked to him, but Dad was there too. The source reiterated the source's opinion that Zolchensky was making a mistake and that he should fire Hunter Biden. He's like, all right. Yeah, look, man, I know he's the vice president's son, but the guy is an idiot. You should just deal with the prosecutor's investigation directly, all right? The matter is going to remain an issue in Ukraine. Don't involve the Bidens. They're idiots. And not in turn, and don't turn this into an international matter, says this guy. This guy's like the voice of reason in this whole thing. Zolchensky responded something to the effect of, don't worry, man. This thing will go away anyway. Not even worried about it. Don't worry. This thing is going to go away anyway. The source said, all right, well, look, notwithstanding Shokin's investigation into you, it's still a bad decision for Burisma to spend $20 to $30 million to buy a U.S. business. Okay, look, you want to be in bed with Hunter? That's fine. Get yourself checked. But that's fine. You can work with him, keep him on the board. But his advice, just separately, is idiotic. Don't buy $20, $30 million U.S. oil and gas company. He says, if you do that, I don't want to be involved with Biden's. All right? You do that on your own. He said, well, Zolchensky from Burisma, he says, well, that's good advice. I appreciate your advice, but it's too late to change my decision. I already pressed send. The source understood this meaning that Zolchensky had already paid the Bidens, presumably, to deal with the prosecutor. And we know that the Biden vice presidency, Joe Biden himself, did deal with the prosecutor. He sat there on the phone and said, fire the prosecutor or I'm leaving with $1 billion of U.S. aid. Prosecutor was fired. There were other phone calls now between the source and Zolchensky, the owner of Burisma. Shortly after the 2016 election, Donald Trump won, shocked the world. And during Trump's transition period, the source participated in a conference call with Ostapenko and Zolchensky. The CHS inquired whether Zlochensky was happy with the U.S. election results. Source calls, hey, Clinton didn't win out there. Trump's in charge. Zlochensky says, no, I'm not happy that Trump won this election. He said, why? Are you concerned about Burisma's involvement with the Bidens? In other words, you thought this whole thing was going to be covered up when Hillary Clinton took over, and now you're concerned that Trump is going to be looking into Ukraine? Zlochensky said, well, look, I didn't want to pay the Bidens, all right? I was pushed to pay them, which I don't doubt for a minute. I don't doubt that for a minute. I bet Hunter threatened the whole company. You better pay us or else my vice president daddy is going to make it real hard on your company. So they just said, all right, man, this is like the mob. So I guess we got to pay our racket. The source explained that the Russian term Zlochensky used to explain the payments was called porochili. Translated by the source, it translates literally to got it or received it. But it's also used in Russian slang for being forced to pay, for being coerced to pay. Zlochensky stated that Shokin had already been fired. And no investigation was going on. He said it's already over. Biden already fired this guy. And nobody would find out about my financial dealings with the Bidens. It's all water under a bridge. The source says, well, I hope you have some backup proof for your words, man. Namely that Zlochensky was forced to pay the Bidens. I mean, if you're forced to pay these guys, you better have some backup on that, because Trump's going to come sniffing around on this. The DOJ is going to say, what is all this going on? Bidens are dirty as can be. They were banking on the Clinton victory, but Trump won. He said, well, don't worry about that. Yeah, I definitely was forced to pay the Bidens. I've got all the records. He said, yeah, don't worry about it. I've got many text messages, and guess what else he's got? And recordings that show that he was coerced to make the payments. And there's more. The CHS told Zlochensky that he should make certain that he retains those recordings. You better hang on to those, buddy, because this is going to come back to bite you. Zlochensky asked whether it would make any legal difference whether he voluntarily made the payments or if he was forced to make them. He's like, well, what if I made them voluntarily? Or what's the difference if I was forced to pay him? He asked the source whether the source could provide any assistance in Ukraine with the Poroshenko regime if something were to happen in the future. He said, nope. Source said, sorry, bro. I told you, don't get in bed with these Bidens. I didn't want to get involved in any of those matters, says the source. Now, there's a note here. There's a previous report where the source reported the foregoing. And he stated the call took place between the week of 2/27/2017. So Trump wins, VP Biden's out of office now. At that time, CHS stated that Zlochensky briefly discussed Hunter Biden, but the topic was not relevant to Burisma's interest in acquiring a U.S.-based business for 50 to 100 million. At this time, the source also reported that Vadim Pojarsky, which is Pojarsky, was assigned by Burisma to manage the acquisition, and he was going to travel to D.C. March 2017. And so then we fast forward years. We have a 2019 telephone call. After the aforementioned 2016 call, the source had no interactions with Zlochensky or Burisma whatsoever, all the way up until 2019. In 2019, the source met with Ostapenko in London to discuss various business matters which had nothing to do with Zlochensky or Burisma or oil and gas, nothing to do with anything. The source noted that the meeting took place at a Russian coffee house near a department store, and that Ostapenko's fiance lives in London. At some point during the meeting at the coffee shop, Ostapenko advised the source that he was going to call Zlochensky back from Burisma. I'm going to get him on, hey, let me get him a call. He comes up. So at this time, the source understood that Zlochevsky was living somewhere in Europe. Don't know where. During the call, they get him on the phone. Zlochevsky asks the source again, and or Ostapenka, if they read the recent news reports about the investigations into Biden and Burisma. He's like, oh man, 2020 is coming up. Looks like Joe Biden might be running for president again. And Zlochevsky jokingly asked the source if the source was an oracle. He said, man, how did you call that one? He's like, you were right about that, man. I shouldn't have, yikes. Maybe I shouldn't have actually done business with those Bidens. What are you, an oracle? That was due to his prior advice that he should not pay the Bidens and instead should hire an attorney. He's like, derp. So the source mentioned, he's like, well, yeah, Zlochevsky, now you're kind of in a difficult spot. You might have difficulty explaining those very suspicious wire transfers that may evidence any illicit payments to the Bidens. I mean, it's all the bank records are there now. Zlochevsky responded. He says, no. He said, I didn't send any funds directly to the big guy. I didn't send any information directly to him, which the source understood as a reference to Joe Biden. So the source says, well, how many companies and bank accounts do you control? He said, well, it would take them, the investigators, 10 years to find the records. He said, we transferred these through so many different companies. They're founded and, these bank accounts are in different countries and different banks under different shell companies. Like they're never going to find it. Those illicit payments to Joe Biden take investigators 10 years. So the source told Zlochevsky, well, if you ever needed help in the future and you want to speak to somebody in the government about that matter, let me know. I can introduce you to somebody if you need them. Now, regarding the seemingly open and unsolicited admissions by two people, Pojarsky and Zlochevsky, about the purpose for their retaining Hunter Biden and the forced payments that Zlochevsky made to the Bidens, the source explained now back to the FBI. He's sitting there telling them all of this. He explained it's very common for businessmen in post-Soviet countries to brag or show off. This is just what they do. He said it's also extremely common for businesses in Russia and Ukraine to make bribe payments to various government officials, just what they do. He also noted that in corporate budgets and other Russian and Ukrainian businesses that the source has inspected in the past, he observed budget line items in Russia called podmazat, which literally means oil and lubrication to make things run smoothly. So they put it as a line item in their expenditures. A little bit of grease. Give them some grease. Which companies routinely use to anticipate bribe payments? So Hunter's just like, yeah, I want that job. Sure. I can do nothing for a ton of money. As such, given the pervasive necessity to bribe government officials in Ukraine and Russia, the source did not perceive Pocharsky or Zlochevsky's statements as unusual or self-serving or pretextual. No, this is just business. They may not even think it's a crime like they're joking about it, right? This guy's like, do not even think about sending a wire transfer. He's like, well, but we budgeted for it though. Additionally, regarding important business meetings, it's also common in Ukraine and Russia for persons to make covert recordings. However, the source has only met with Zlochevsky in person on one occasion and has spoken to him only twice on telephone. And as such, the CHS is not able to provide any further opinion as to the veracity of his statements. Now, there was another statement added as a supplement. We get an update, June 29, 2020. Regarding the CHS's aforementioned reporting that Zlochevsky has said, quote, he has many text messages and recordings that show he was coerced to make payments. The source clarified that the source said he only had a total of 17 recordings involving the Bidens. He has a total, let's clean this up. Let's erase that and say, what the heck did that just say? Clarified that Zlochevsky said he had a total of 17 recordings. 17 involving the Bidens. 2 of the recordings included Joe Biden. 2. And the remaining 15 recordings only included Hunty Poo. The source also reiterated that per Zlochevsky, these recordings evidence Zlochevsky's was somehow coerced into paying the Bidens to ensure that Viktor Shokin was fired. And he was. Joe Biden is on record saying, I literally threatened to withhold American aid to the tune of $1 billion unless he was gone. He was gone. Zlochevsky stated that he has 2, quote, documents which they understood to be wire transfer statements and bank records, etc., that evidence some payments to the Bidens were made, presumably in exchange for the prosecutor's firings. And about the aforementioned spelling, they say Ostapenko, different spellings for his name, he works in some office of the administration of the president of Zelensky. Currently working for Zelensky. And also works for Valery Vavilov, the CEO founder of a cryptocurrency called Bitfury. Now they give us a synopsis here. Oh, that's the end of it. So that is the end of the document. First level approved by this person, submitted by this person, all done Tuesday, June 2020, part of the official record, the FD1023 form that exposes the Biden crime family. What a document. Monstrous in its consequence. If anybody in Congress or the DOJ would listen to it, we'll see. But it exposes the entire scheme, and we know that Joe Biden, based on this document, was involved. Amazing. So the Oversight Committee over in the House of Representatives has some thoughts on this as well. They give us some details. They say, here are a few critical pieces of information. This came from a trusted, highly credible CHS who's been used by the FBI for over a decade. And he sounded like it. He gave him good advice. It all came true. He was introduced to Mikhailo, Burisma CEO and founder. And we went through most of these details. But they're highlighting for us that they hired Hunter so that his dad could protect the company. They said, don't worry, Hunter's going to take care of all of those issues through daddy. $5 million to one Biden, $5 million to the other. That Hunter was as stupid as Zlochevsky's dog, but they had to keep him on board. And they dealt with Shokin. Joe Biden did deal with Shokin. 17 recordings of this, presumably out there somewhere, and documents evidencing the wire transfers. But there are open questions about this, and these are the important ones. What did the FBI do to verify these allegations? Did they do anything, or did they take this report from a highly credible 10-year informant to whom they paid tens of thousands of dollars and just sit on it? And did they do that in the era in which this would have been consequential to the country? We know they did. The question is, will they be held accountable for this cover-up? And of course, my friends, we will continue to cover this as Congress continues to investigate. Thank you for liking and subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. This story will continue forward, and we'll be here to cover it. We'd love to have you join us. But we're not done yet, because this is just the beginning. The Oversight Committee released a timeline. 14 years of the Biden crime family revealed to us in a beautiful chart that we will go through in detail, starting all the way back in 2009 and taking us into the present time. You can see that when we start here, we're going to go back to when the Obama and Biden administration began, January 20th, 2009. They're in charge. They're in office. Something happens in 2013. What do we have here? Hunter Biden, a business associate, and Chinese investors, they create this company. It's called BHR, Bohai Harvest. It's an investment fund controlled by the Bank of China, focusing on mergers and acquisitions. Soon as Joe Biden is in office, Hunter gets to work. BHR is created. We see that China has Joe Biden arrive. He goes over there with Hunter on Air Force Two, and he meets with the CEO of BHR, called this guy, Jonathan Lee. That happens December 4th, 2013. Hunter hops on the plane. Shortly after the plane ride, BHR's business license was approved and Hunter Biden was a board member. Isn't that amazing? VP Biden brings his son over there. They put him on the board. Here's a picture. This one comes out of Kazakhstan. We've got Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and other businessmen meeting with Hunter Biden at a hotel in Washington, D.C. They're hanging out with one another. We go to Ukraine, April 2014. This is when Burisma comes into play. Burisma is a Ukrainian energy company now. Suddenly, they also appoint Biden, a Biden business associate, to their board of directors. We fast forward a week over in Kazakhstan. This company called Kenis wires $150,000 to his Latvian company to another Rosemont entity. Now, this is where we see Joe Biden travels over to Ukraine. And here is what he said.
You face very daunting problems and some might say humiliating threats that are taking place indirectly. But the opportunity to generate a united Ukraine, getting it right, is within your grasp. And we want to be your partner, your friend in the project. We want to, and we're ready to assist. We can help in stabilizing and strengthening Ukraine's economy by helping you withstand the unfair economic pressure being thrust upon you. We stand ready to do that, and I say the American people stand ready. And this is a delicate thing to say to a group of leaders in their House of Parliament, but you have to fight the cancer of corruption that is endemic in your system right now.
Not Hunter's. Not Hunter and Biden corruption. So then we see there is another entity. The Rosemont entity then wires $142,000 to a car dealership. Now, who gets that car? Hunter Biden. $142,000 New Jersey sports car for Hunter. That's from a Rosemont entity. For what? Nobody knows. Then we go to May. Joe Biden is still traveling around the world, grifting off of his position. He is arriving. You can see he posted this on his Twitter account when he could walk up the stairs of an aircraft before. Wheels up in D.C. Next stop, Romania. Wow, he can even carry a bag up back then. So that was in 2014. Now he goes to Romania. Joe Biden's traveling around. Then he speaks when he visits in Romania. He gives a talk to the members of parliament.
Mr. President, we may be listening to a future president. I don't know. I want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It's a pleasure having an opportunity to spend some time with you as well, and Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies and the President of the Senate and the Justice Minister.
All right, so he's over in Romania talking around over there. And then in September 2014, BHR, one of the companies we saw earlier, they drop a cool $1.7 billion into a CCP-linked petroleum and chemical company. About a quarter later, in December, China and BHR, they invest. Hunter and a business associate, they drop then about $500,000 into BHR. So BHR invests 1.7 into CCP. Hunter invests into BHR. Then we go forward a couple weeks to the end of December. Another Kazakhstani oil company and Burisma, they join with another CCP-linked company, and they create this transnational arrangement. So now we've got Kazakhstan, we've got Burisma, and a CCP company, financial transaction agreement. 2015 in March, Ukraine. Hunter Biden organizes a campaign dinner at Cafe Milano in Washington, D.C., and he has his daddy stop by to meet with a high-level official called Vadim Pozarsky. Daddy swings by. September, BHR joins with the CCP-linked entity to acquire a U.S. automotive deal, $600 million for that deal. In Romania, Vice President Biden welcomes Romanian president to the White House. He states the vice president welcomed the president of Romania to focus on anti-corruption efforts and a rule of law as a means to strengthen international investment. He said that we're happy with what you're doing to fight corruption. Meanwhile, Hunter's getting paid. In Ukraine, Vadim Pozarsky suggests high-level U.S.-level officials come to Ukraine and talk with prosecutor Viktor Shokin and Poroshenko about Zlochevsky's investigations. Why don't you send some people over here? Prosecutor Shokin was investigating Burisma and Burisma's owners, Zlochevsky, for fraud, which he just acknowledged that basically existed in the FD1023. Prosecutor Shokin is the Ukrainian government official that Vice President Biden demanded Poroshenko fire. We heard that clip. Back in Romania, there's another person, Gabriel Popoviciu, who begins making payments into another LLC. This is Robinson Walker LLC. We talk about all these different shell companies. This entity is owned by a Biden associate, Rob Walker. Popoviciu's company sent Rob Walker a wire for $180,000, and they paid that company $3 million. Biden family, they got $1 million from that LLC after the deposit. So Walker then dumped a portion of that back over to the Bidens. 16 of the 17 payments from Popoviciu's company to Robinson were made while Joe Biden was vice president. We're at November 2015. This is a high-level government official working with Obama and Biden. He meets with Hunter Biden, and he discusses Burisma. So Hunter is actually doing some lobbying here. Okay, so he goes and he meets with this guy, Amos Hochstein, officially in the U.S. government. Rob Walker then, from Romania, he wires Hunter Biden $60,000 back in November 2015. Amos, the guy that Hunter met with, okay, so Hunter goes and meets with this guy. Then this guy meets with Vice President Biden for whatever reason. Amos Hochstein calls Hunter Biden back in Ukraine. Hunter then travels to Romania. He meets with the U.S. ambassador to Romania. And then Vice President Biden goes to Ukraine as well. And you can see this is from his trip. Announces a trip back over to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Pozarsky emails Hunter Biden confirmation. He says, is the vice president coming over here? Hunter says, yeah. Then we get to December. We have China now. Hunter Biden and the CEFC chairman, Ye Jingming, they start communicating. The Chinese want in on it. Robinson Walker sends Hunter another 60 grand in December for whatever reason that was. Vice President Biden then arrives in Ukraine. Remember, we've been talking about this prosecutor being fired. And guess what? Here's Biden. Vice President Biden arrives in Ukraine, where demands to fire General Shokin are discussed. Here's what Biden said.
I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion.
$1 billion.
They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
Wow.
Well, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Got fired.
Yeah, tough guy got fired because he was using American aid as leverage, because that's exactly what Hunter Biden wanted, because he was getting paid $80,000. Apparently, Joe Biden, according to the FD1023, got $5 million cool from Ukraine, Burisma, and Hunter got the other half. In a quid pro quo, he got it done, and he used $1 billion of American aid as leverage. December 9th, 2015, he then leaves Ukraine, gets a commitment from Poroshenko that Shokin will be fired. He was. Vice President Biden hosts a holiday party. Amos Hochstein and Hunter Biden both attend. Amos was the guy Hunter met with to discuss Burisma. Hunter, in December, gets another $60,000 from Robinson Walker. Another 60 grand. Woo! How many times was that in a month? Wow, was that twice in a month? All right. So he got about 120 grand in 1 month. Yeah, so one payment came in December, 60 grand, December 7th. Another payment came in December 23rd, about every 2 weeks. Another 60 grand on that. We get to 2016 now. Vice President Biden is meeting with Poroshenko in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum, where he reinforced the linkage between the loan guarantee and reforms. Zolchevsky, in February of 2016, he then gives Hunter Biden unspecified, very extravagant birthday gifts. Wonder what those were. Then in February, Vice President Biden and Poroshenko, they have a phone call. Don't know what they talked about. February 2016, Hunter now gets a little bit of a raise. Robinson Walker drops him a cool $61,000. Biden in Ukraine, February 16th, Poroshenko asks Shokin to resign. Biden calls Poroshenko, thank you for having your prosecutor resign. All after that leverage. Hunter's getting 60,000, 60,000, 60,000. Hunter's meeting with Amos. Hunter's meeting with Daddy. Prosecutor gets fired. We know Zolchevsky was working very hard to get business done elsewhere in America with an IPO and other places. And this was, in his mind, a victory. February 2016, Ukraine. President Poroshenko says he's received Shokin's letter of resignation. March comes about. Hunter gets actually, this one goes to Owasco. So now, let's see here. Yes, Owasco is Hunter Biden's. So Owasco is where the money's going now, into a different professional corporation account. So it's not going into Hunter's, checking account. It's in another shell company, just so we're clear on that. So Hunter then, he goes and he meets with the U.S. ambassador to Romania. March, Ukrainian parliament approves the firing of the prosecutor, General Shokin. And I'm not up to speed with Ukrainian politics or hierarchies, but it might be very similar to like if we fired Merrick Garland, right? The United States chief prosecutor, the attorney general of our country. Ukrainian parliament at their federal level approves. It's a big deal. Romania, Robinson Walker also then wires Owasco, which is Hunty-Poo, $123,000. Man, that's a lot of money. Another payment, $53,000. That one comes in May. July, Hunter gets $116,000. August, Hunter gets $20,000. Hunter in September, $32,000. $20,000 is another payment. October's $41,000. Millions now, or hundreds of thousands coming up, but in total, we're going to see it's millions. November comes around, 2016. BHR agrees to purchase a mining company, a minority stake in African cobalt mines, for $1.14 billion. BHR, remember, that's the Chinese company. Hunter gets another cool $122,000 from Robinson Walker. We turn to 2017 now. BHR invests $460 million in a Chinese facial recognition company. We have an important date now in this timeline. Guess what happens? Donald Trump takes control of the White House. Life is feeling much better. The Obama-Biden administration ends, but the nefariousness does not. All these deals have already been done. Unspecified Biden bank account, don't know where that one went, 20 grand from Robinson Walker. For what? No idea. Another one, another unspecified Biden account, 20 grand there. February 10th, 2017. Hallie Biden gets 10 grand from Robinson Walker. In China, the chairman, Yi Jianming, gives Hunter a diamond worth $80,000 after having dinner together in Miami, Florida. Hunter, you're so dreamy. Will you be mine? In Romania, Robinson Walker also wires Biden 20 grand, 14 grand, February. Ye Jianming's company drops a cool $3 million back over to Robinson Walker. So it goes through Robinson before it goes over to the Bidens. It's owned by a Biden associate called Rob Walker. Robinson Walker then sends another Biden account $5,000 in March, another $25,000 in March, another $25,000 to Hallie Biden, $50,000 to Hunter, $100,000 to Hunter, $50,000 to Hunter in March. Look at all this money in March. Monster payments. I mean, like, what is this for? Robinson Walker wires Owasco another $100,000 at the end of the March. April, $50,000. $50,000 April 3rd. April 14th, $10,000. $300,000 in April 18th. $120,000 to this other company in China in April. Look at all this money. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. $25,000 here, $125,000 here. In May, Joe Biden attends a CEFC meeting. All this money's being transferred around. Biden family just got paid. Whoa. So now Joe Biden says, oh, what's that company again? Oh, yeah, the CEFC. So he goes to their meeting in Los Angeles, and there's an email that comes out now. This email is between the Biden business associates about the ownership of this new deal, this CEFC deal. And this email mentions 10 held by H for the big guy. 10 held by H for the big guy. In May, China, Robinson Walker sends another Biden account 15 grand. Another account 15 grand. Owasco gets 61 grand. We're now in July. In July, in a message to a Chinese company, Hunter Biden says the following. Please have the director call me. Not James or Tony or Jim. Have him call me tonight. This is Hunter speaking. I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. I am very concerned that the chairman has either changed his mind and broken our deal without telling me, or that he is unaware of the promises and assurances that have been made have not been kept. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. All too often people mistake kindness for weakness, and all too often I am standing over top of them saying, I warned you from this moment until whenever he reaches me. Okay, my friend, I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. I sure hope whatever it is you're doing is very, very, very important. Man, he talks a tough game when his daddy's the vice president, punk. So we see here that China, on August 2nd, there was an arrangement now between CEFC and Biden family changes as Hunter Biden associates are removed. Hunter writes the following. This whole deal changes. Hunter writes, the chairman changed the deal after we met in Miami to a much more lasting and lucrative arrangement to create a holding company 50% owned by me and 50% owned by him. Consulting fees is one piece of our income stream, but the reason this proposal by the chairman was so much more interesting to me and my family is that we would also be partners in the equity and the profits of the JV's investments. He's a capital investor now, all of a sudden. All right, so August 2nd, the joint entity, now Hudson West, is formed. They form another shell company. 50% of the entity is owned by Gongwen Dong. 50% is owned by Hunter Biden. In another text message, Hunter tells the CEFC associate, Kevin Dong, he says, the Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants for this partnership. Gongwen is a business associate of Yi Jinping, who executed transactions on his behalf. Big money starts pouring in. CEFC drops $100,000 to Hunter. CEFC then wires $5 million to Hudson West 3, the same company that they just created. The entity, Hudson West 3, is partially owned 50% by Hunty. $5 million gets dropped in there. Hunter then requests keys be made at his office. He's like, man, I'm flush now. We just got $5 million. I got so much crack and hookers on my weekend planned right now. It's going to be nuts. But before we do that, we've got to get keys made for my daddy. He says, we're going to have an office. He says, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden, Gongwen Dong, Chairman Ye, all need to be on the signage at the Biden Foundation and Hudson West. Who's going to be on there? Joe Biden? What? All of that is supposed to be on the sign at the Biden Foundation. Now, this is Patrick Ho. He is an agent, a CEFC agent in America, arrested at the JFK airport on suspicion of bribery and money laundering on behalf of the CEFC, which is the same entity that Gal Luft is being prosecuted for being related to. And Hunter was here, had a shared office with these guys. February 2018 happens. Treasury FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, issues a notice accusing a Latvian company of money laundering. Ye Jinping is detained by Chinese authorities for his economic crimes. Now, nobody knows where he is. He's gone. All right. So the Chinese took care of their side of this criminal operation. That guy's gone. Hunter is like running the White House. They know how to deal with their criminals over there. That guy's gone with the wind. Hunter's like in charge. Here, it continues. So he gets arrested, and now the Hudson West LLC and the CEFC begin to dissolve. The whole thing's a giant scam. The Chinese arrested their dude, or he's dead or gone. Hunter's like, whew, man, that was a close call. So he dissolves his LLC. He's like, we don't need that anymore. Patrick Ho is ultimately convicted for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in a multinational bribery scheme and various money laundering offenses. Patrick Ho is sentenced to 3 years after he's been found to have been bribing officials in Africa in pursuing oil deals for CEFC China, as well as laundering money through various international accounts. So everybody gets into hot water now. Joe Biden all of a sudden says, I better run for president so that I don't get indicted. Joe Biden responds to reporters in Iowa on this very important date, September 21st, 2019. He's running for president now all of a sudden. Hey, Mr. President, have you ever worked with your son Hunter on his foreign business deals? We've got questions about that. Here's what he said.
Following former Vice President Joe Biden on the campaign trail, Peter Ducey is joining us now from Des Moines, Iowa, live with the very latest. Hi, Peter.
Julie, if there was an abuse of power or a conflict of interest, Joe Biden insists it wasn't him and it wasn't his son. Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Look, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me.
Joe Biden says no talk of business with his son. His son says some talk of business with Dad, the former VP. Hunter Biden cooperated with a New Yorker article in July, which contains this passage about the energy company Burisma. As Hunter recalled, his father discussed Burisma with him just once. Dad said, I hope you know what you are doing. And I said, I do.
Did you? Not sure. In October, Hunter neither played a role in the formation nor the licensure of BHR. This is a spokesman for Hunter dropping this statement. They say, wait a minute, he's running for presidency. His daddy is. Hunter neither played a role in the formation or the licensure of BHR, nor owned any equity in it, while his father was vice president. Right, it was the other shell company underneath that, Hudson West 3. He served only as a member of its board of directors when he joined based on his interest in seeking a way to bring Chinese capital to international markets. It was an unpaid position. He was an intern. To date, Hunter has not received any compensation for being on their board. He's not received any return on investment. Did you just see all those different accounts, transactions in the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars that he got? We did. Moreover, Hunter played no role in directing or making BHR investments. He intends to resign from the board. That's it. The media is like, oh, great. Nothing to see here. FBI doesn't care. Nobody cares. He's running for president. Donald Trump is in the office, so it's all eyes on Trump. December 8th, 2019, this interview happens. Joe Biden is asked about Burisma. People are asking questions. Why is he getting paid $80,000 a month for not doing anything? Joe, do you know what your son was up to? Here's what he says.
There's one thing that a lot of Democrats even do wonder about, and that is Hunter Biden, your son, was getting paid a lot of money to serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges. You were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody.
Well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like,
No,
when
it
you're
doesn't.
vice president, isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know
No.
what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was, there was something on its face that was wrong.
You don't think that somebody handing your son $80,000 a year to sit on the board of some company and not do anything is strange to you when you're the vice president of the country? You don't think that's weird? Everybody thinks that's weird, right? Or it's a little bit too convenient. It's like that person who's a little bit too nice to you. You're like, no, just stop following me around, okay? I don't need help right now. Thank you. No, I'm looking at this. I'm good. Thanks for the help. So it's strange, but he doesn't need to look into it. He knows exactly what's going on. There's no confusion about it. He is getting paid for influence peddling. 2020 comes about. Trump is still in office. Election is well underway. Joe Biden is running. Ukrainian law enforcement announces a $6 million bribery scheme. Into Zlochevsky in order to end the probe into the Burisma founder. $6 million scheme, that's the end of it. June 30th is the FD1023 form, which we read through in a prior segment. If you missed that, we covered the whole thing. Make sure you catch that video. But the FD1023 form is created. We're in the middle of election season. It's Biden versus Trump, looking like he's going to win this thing. CHS comes out to the FBI. Hey, we've got some information about the corruption of this family. An FD1023 form is memorialized. Source appears. We read through the whole thing. He said that there was a $5 million bribe from Burisma to Hunter, $5 million bribe to Biden in exchange for the firing of the prosecutor. We know that that happened later on in the date. Now, October comes about. There is a presidential debate that takes place. We talked about it here. Joe Biden says the following: I have not taken a penny from any foreign source anywhere ever in my life.
You were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30 seconds.
Here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in...
You saw it. I've never taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. And you go, well, maybe not directly to your bank account, but your son did. And you were doing the bidding of your son. It's very strange that the things that he wanted to get done, you did, and he was getting money hand over fist. And a lot of money. $80,000 per month. I misspoke. Not per year, per month. He was making $1 million a year for doing nothing. $83,000 plus a month, like clockwork. And we saw the other bills coming in, all of the other remittances that ended up to the tunes of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, $150,000, $80,000 diamonds. The amount of money here is incredibly significant. Joe Biden, as a father who's the vice president, might want to have the prudence to say, that's a little bit off. I know my son is as dumb as a box of rocks. Everybody else, even in Ukraine, agrees with that. Why would this be happening? He says, my son has not made money in terms of the thing about, what are you talking about? China. The only guy who made money in China is Trump.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
And the media just sat there like, well, he said it. He said he didn't make any money, so I guess that's it. Now, in March 2023, there's an important date. The Oversight and the Accountability Committee, they released their first bank records memo, and they find that there was over $1 million in payments from a Chinese company to the Bidens through an associate. $1 million. March 2023, when asked about his family's business dealings and whether Biden family members received money from his foreign son's business associates, Joe Biden responded, that's not true, which of course is a total lie, because we saw the financial records literally going to Hunter's bank accounts, Hallie's bank accounts, and other Biden family member bank accounts. So he continues the great lie, saying that it's simply not true.
Any reaction to House GOP's memo about your family dealings, sir? Any reaction to House GOP's new memo about your family dealings, sir?
Family dealings?
Yes, your revealing that Hunter Biden's business associate sent over $1 million to 3 of your family members. Any reactions to that report?
Hunter Biden sent over $1 million to your family members. He says that's not true. And he looks there like he may not know on that one. But I'm not so sure about that. We see another important date. The Oversight releases its second bank records memo, revealing that the Bidens were also involved in peddling schemes in Romania and China. And of course, we know that on June 22nd, we also heard about whistleblower testimony that was released as well. And then in July, we had the very great testimony of the IRS whistleblowers who sealed it with their own evidence from their own involvement in this investigation. And one little juicy nugget that came out of that testimony was this question from Congressman Dan Goldman, the man who bought his Congress seat and overpaid for it, and his poor constituents now have to deal with him. He is going to be asking Gary Shapley about this exchange between Hunter and Joe Biden. And he thinks he's very smart in that it proves that Joe Biden was not involved in Hunter's crimes. But he drops the ball on this one, and he gets nailed.
And you testified that he said that Hunter told his dad, according to Rob Walker, quote, "I may be trying to start a company or try to do something with these guys." Now, let me ask you something. That doesn't sound much like Joe Biden was involved in whatever Hunter Biden was doing with the CEFC if Hunter Biden is telling him that he's trying to do business with them, does it?
No, but it does show that he told his father he was trying to do business.
Oops.
And he was
okay,
talking
well,
to
that
his
is
father
true. Hunter Biden
about the
does
business.
try to do business. That's correct.
Oops.
So you don't not only have no direct evidence connecting Joe Biden to any of Hunter Biden's business deal, you actually had proof that he wasn't involved. That is the proof that you had.
We have proof that they had conversations, even by your own little fact pattern right there. What a doofus. All right, one more time. Do you see how caught off guard he was? Whatever intern put that together, actually, I don't even want to blame the interns. I would assume that this guy probably put that together, probably thought he had a zinger coming out of his back pocket there, ends up stepping in it face first.
And you testified that he said that Hunter told his dad, according to Rob Walker,
Hunter
quote,
told dad,
"I may be trying to start a company or try to do something with these guys."
Hunter's telling daddy, hey, daddy, we're going to work on a business deal. You're the vice president.
Now, let me ask you something. That doesn't sound much like Joe Biden was involved in whatever Hunter Biden was doing with the CEFC if Hunter Biden is telling him that he's trying to do business with them, does it?
He's only trying to, not that he is actually doing it.
No, but it does show that he told his father he was trying to do business.
Okay, well, that is true. Hunter Biden does try to do business. That's correct. So you not only have no direct evidence connecting.
Oh, man, what a doofus. All right, so that's who's in charge there. Now, he should probably go work for the FBI. That's probably what they were doing, investigating Hunter. I have no idea what's going on. And that's just how this goes. So 14 years of the Biden crime family exposed in beautiful detail. And if you want to access this timeline or any of the links or any of the videos that you saw here today, go to robertgovea.com, sign up for the newsletter, access the mind map, and you can literally access this mind map, including clicking these links and accessing anything you see here. So we'll see if this continues to evolve. I think we're just getting started. I think that this timeline will carry us into 2024 as more is exposed. Complex web, complicated business, but we're still marching on. And thank you, my friends, for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. We'll look forward to seeing you as we cover it onward. All right. And so let's wrap it up with a little congressional obliteration. Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. showed up in Congress today for a censorship hearing, and the Democrats didn't want to hear from him because they don't like things that challenge their worldview. And so what did they do right out of the gate? They moved to literally censor him at a censorship hearing. This woman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, moved for the vote. all of the Democrats jumped in on this thing, and then RFK Jr. blasted them, reminded them that this is not what their party is about. He's flanked by Dennis Kucinich there, smiling away the whole time, and he finishes his statement with a beautiful round of applause from the people who recognize the importance of free speech. Maybe the Democrats will realize this at some point. But here it is. In Congress, at a censorship hearing, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. seated right here. We've got chairman of the Weaponization and Judiciary Committees, Jim Jordan. He's flanked by Stacey Plaskett. We know others like Thomas Massie are in the House. All the Democrats on this side of the panel. Here is what they did at the start of this hearing.
I'd like to raise a point of order.
Gentlelady can state a point of order.
Point of order pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2, which Mr. Kennedy is violative of. I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week. Rule 11, Clause 2.
Despicable comments. Now, they're trying to move this into executive session. They want to close this off from the public proceeding. And this feels very convenient because isn't one of their constituents, one of their members in Congress, under a lot of fire for saying some pretty awful things about other people around this world?
2 says, whenever it is asserted by a member of the committee that the evidence or testimony at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, or it is asserted by a witness that the evidence or testimony that the witness would give at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate the witness, and it goes on. Mr. Kennedy, among many other things, has said, I know a lot now about bioweapons. We put out hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there is an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
Gentlelady making a motion or a speech?
I've made a motion to move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy's testimony...
Mr. Chairman, I
and
move
his
to table the
previous
motion.
statements-
And we're pausing for our YouTube medical censors out there. This is not medical advice. This is a debate about what Robert F. Kennedy said, and she's saying that this was a racist statement, essentially, that this was disproportionately impacting different demographics, and that it was offensive, and that now Kennedy is going to be coming out here and violating House rules by having made that statement. He hasn't even testified yet. He's not made any statement like this in Congress, but they're saying that he said something like that. She kind of cobbled together his words, and he'll explain it, saying that it's been taken out of context. But they are now trying to shut him up now, silence him.
The gentleman from Kentucky has moved to table.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Every Democrat's going to vote
Questions
yes.
on the motion to table. The gentlelady has asked for a roll call vote. The clerk will have to step back for a second. The clerk will have to come in. We'll call the roll on the motion to table, and then we can get back to testimony.
I think the witnesses can sit in the chairs sitting behind.
I'll leave that up to the clerks. If the clerks are comfortable with that. Yeah, why don't we do that? Maybe we can go right down here.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Gentleman from Louisiana.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, I have
not a point of order.
I have a motion on the table.
There's a motion and the vote's been
Move into
called.
executive session
We're
because
waiting for
Mr.
the clerks.
Is violative of Rule 11, Clause 2.
Waiting for the clerks. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes.
Mr. Jordan votes yes. Mr. Issa. Mr. Massey.
Yes, to not censor.
Mr. Massey votes
Shout
yes.
out to Massey.
Mr. Stewart. Yes. Mr. Stewart votes yes. Ms. Stefanik.
Yes.
Ms. Stefanik votes yes. Mr. Gates.
Somebody
Mr.
get Matt
Johnson of
Gates.
Louisiana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes yes. Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong votes yes. Mr. Stubbe. Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop votes yes. Ms. Kamak.
Yes.
Ms. Kamak votes yes. Ms. Hageman. Yes. Ms. Hageman votes yes. Ms. Plaskett.
No, I want to follow the rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this conference with
Democrats
these House
now.
rules, so no.
Ms. Plaskett votes no. Mr. Lynch. No. Mr. Lynch votes no. Ms. Sanchez.
No, because it's violative of the rules.
Ms. Sanchez votes no.
Censor.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
No to allowing a witness to
Censor.
degrade and
This is not
defame
speech
others
time.
and violate the rules.
We got your vote.
And not have his
Pipe down,
testimony
Debbie.
and degradation and amplified
Mr. Chairman.
rather
Just
than
say no.
given an executive session.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz
Gosh.
votes no.
Censor.
Mr. Connolly.
Censor.
No to the
Ms.
Soviet Politburo.
Censor.
Mr. Connolly votes no. Mr. Garamendi.
No.
Mr. Garamendi
Censor.
votes no. Mr. Allred? Ms. Garcia?
No.
Ms. Garcia votes
Censor.
no. Mr. Goldman?
Goldman.
No to hate speech.
Mr. Goldman
Censor,
votes no.
you're hateful. All right, so back over to the Republicans.
Mr. Gates?
Gates is
Mr.
here.
Gates? Mr. Gates votes aye.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 10 ayes and 8 noes.
The motion to table is agreed to.
Motion to table's agreed to. Your stupid censor motion fails. You don't control the votes, even though you're trying to censor people. Not in this house. You might still control YouTube and Facebook and some of the other platforms, but not here. Now, Robert Kennedy is going to respond to all this here in a minute, but I wanted to play this other clip from Stacey Plaskett, just so we can understand where these people are coming from and how almost demented they are. This is a hearing about speech in America, about free speech. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a Democrat, been a lifelong Democrat, has a ton of Democratic positions that I think are in total alignment with the Democratic Party. A lot of them are not, because their ideology has gotten so far askew from where it used to be. But he is on their team, technically. He's running for their party. And he's only here to talk about speech, to say that he was censored when he was sharing his perspective. Has nothing to do with Donald Trump at all. He was talking about pandemic stuff and other issues. But watch where this goes immediately from Stacey Plaskett.
Mr. Kennedy's and others here are claiming that they've been censored, but
They
they
were.
actually have a huge megaphone.
They have been censored. They were suppressed off YouTube, thrown off different platforms. Hello?
The rules that my colleague tried to bring up are rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this Congress. They did not allow the Democrats to be part of that. And one of those rules was that if information or testimony might potentially defame an individual, that we would go in executive session.
What is going to be
No one was trying to
defamatory?
stop him from testifying, but not to give him the megaphone that this group has allowed him to have. I also note, in terms of censorship, that the far-right media has already issued articles about me playing the race card.
Well,
the race card
stop.
is something that's often used against Black people for bringing up when they see race hatred being propagated against them. And it's a means to try and keep us quiet and keep us in our place. Oh, you're playing the race card by bringing up what is obvious in our lives, what is obviously happening, race. And so he keeps saying I'm race baiting and try and censor me, but I'm going to continue to tell the truth.
Oh, wow.
I want to be
Yeah, you racist bigots. So how dare you even say, first of all, if you voted against her vote, you're a racist. And if you don't support her censoring this guy, you're a bigot. And she's going to bring it up. And if you even challenge her about it, you're racist for that too. So just get used to it. No matter what happens, every morning, look at yourself in the mirror and just remind yourself you're a racist bigot. That's what I do.
abundantly clear about what else is happening in this room. The MAGA Republicans are trying to scare social media companies into not taking down blatantly false information in the lead up to our 2024 presidential election. Chair Jordan knows, as we do, that when conspiracy theories succeed, so does Donald Trump.
Whoa, man, she's amazing. All right, so I, you know, it's hard to imagine that there is like, it's almost like a character, like you'd write in a terrible Netflix series or something. It's just outstanding. So she's there screaming about racism and about, I don't even know what, in a censorship hearing where she's moving to support censorship of a Democrat in her own committee. And this is, my friends, is when I talk about these people are going to fail, this is what I'm talking about, okay? I don't know how they're going to get anything done if this is how they operate all the time. It's just nuts. And here we have a reasonable Democrat, which I know is an oxymoron these days, but it's true. He is flanked here by Dennis Kucinich, who turned out to be one of the best prognosticators of a lot of things in quite some time, is here. The normal Democrats are back in Congress, and he delivers a burner reminding us why free speech is so dang important.
I want to put aside my written statement for a moment
Dump its side. Get
And
rid of it.
address one of the points that was brought up, I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with with issues that impact directly the American people. The rising price of groceries, 76% over the past 2 years for basic foodstuff, the war in Ukraine, the inflation issues, the border issues, many other issues that concern us all as a nation. We can't do that without the First Amendment, without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country. I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues.
Looking at the Democrats.
5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me.
Nice.
I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy.
Absolutely.
We need to be
essential.
talking to each other.
First Amendment.
This is a letter that many of you signed, many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. This 102 people signed this.
Idiots.
This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The
102
charges
people
in
signed a
this,
document.
and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
So the Democrats go, they get 102 people who are offended by something. They draft a letter. They're going to shove it in front of his face. And they're going to say, you can't talk about this because 102 colleagues say you're a racist or something like that. They always do this with their stupid letters. They did this with their 51 so-called intelligence experts that told us that we couldn't talk about the Hunter Biden laptop. They try it all the time. It's not working anymore.
And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration. I was censored by the Trump administration.
All censorship.
I was the
is bad.
first person censored by as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office. It ordered a truthful, and by the way, they had to invent a new word called malinformation to censor people like me.
Yeah,
There was no misinformation on my Instagram account. Everything I put on that account was cited and sourced to peer-reviewed publications or government databases. Nobody has ever pointed to a single piece of misinformation that I published. I was removed for something they called malinformation. Malinformation is information that is true, but is inconvenient to the government, that they don't want people to hear. And that's antithetical to the values of our country. After I announced my presidency, it became more difficult for people to censor me outright. So now I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda, where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I've never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative.
That's the sphere. They label him that way.
Anti-Semitism, racism. These are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives.
Weapons of the
and they're
left.
applied to me to silence me.
Racist,
Because
bigot.
people don't want me to have that conversation about the war. about groceries, about inflation,
marginalize
about the war on the middle class in this country that we need to be having. And by the way, I want to say this while I'm on the record, that in my entire life, and why I'm under oath, in my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic. I have spent my life fighting my professional career, fighting for Israel, for the protection of Israel. I have a better record on Israel than anybody in this chamber today. I'm the only person who has publicly objected to the $2 billion payout that the Biden administration is now making to Iran, which is a genocidal program. I'm the only one who's objected to that. I've fought more ferociously for Israel than anybody. But I am being censored here through this target, through smears, through misinterpretations of what I've said, through lies, through association, which is a tactic that we all thought we had been discredited and dispensed with after the Army McCarthy hearings in the 1950s.
No, it's live
but
and well.
those same weapons are now being deployed against me to silence me.
A fellow Democrat.
I know many of the people who wrote this letter.
Garbage letter.
I don't believe there's a single person who signed this letter who believes I'm anti-Semitic.
Right on.
I do not believe that. There is no evidence of that. Now, I want to say something I think that's more important, and it goes directly to what you talked about, ranking member, which is the need, this toxic polarization that is destroying our country today. And how do we deal with that? This kind of division is more dangerous for our country than any time since the American Civil War. And how do we deal with that? How are we going to, every Democrat on this committee believes that we need to end that polarization. Do you think you can do that by censoring people? I'm telling you, you cannot. That only aggravates and amplifies the problem.
I think he's being very generous to his fellow side. I don't think they have any interest in unity or stopping this division in a minute. I think that they want total victory. They want total subjugation. It's their way or the highway. There's no unity. There's no room for people with opposing viewpoints. It's blood sport now. So I really appreciate this faith that they're operating that way in good faith, but I think that is incorrect. I think Kucinich thought that way. I think Kennedy's an old school Democrat who thinks that way. But AOC, Stacey Plaskett, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, these people have a bloodthirst for total power. They don't want any unity and split votes. Well, let's compromise with the Republicans. No, they'd rather them all thrown in the gulags in D.C.
We need to start being kind to each other. We need to start being respectful to each other.
That is true.
We need to start restoring the comedy to this chamber and to the rest of America, but it has to start here. My uncle, Edward Kennedy, has more legislation with his name on it than any senator in United States history. Why is that? Because he was able to reach across the aisle, because he didn't deal in insults, because he didn't try to censor people. He brought home people who were antithetical to what he believed in. He came home almost every weekend with people like Orrin Hatch to our house at the compound in Hyannisport. At that time, Orrin Hatch to me was like Darth Vader, because I was an environmentalist. And I was saying, why is Teddy bringing this guy home? But he knew that he was effective because he understood that comedy and respect and kindness and compassion and empathy for other people is the way that the only way to restore the function in this chamber. But more importantly, today we need to give an example in the leadership of our country of being respectful to each other. If you think I said something that's anti-Semitic, let's talk about the details. I'm telling you, all the things that I'm accused of right now by you, And in this letter are distortions, they're misrepresentations. I didn't say those things.
And she has him right in front of the whole world to see the opportunity to call him out on every one of those statements. She could say she's on Congress. She's right up there on a very tight little podium up there to make her feel up high up there, all powerful. Hey, Mr. Kennedy, I saw that you said these racist things. Why are you a racist? Would be a great question. And he could respond to that. But she's not interested in that. She'd rather him just be silenced so that she can sit up there on her podium and call him a racist without him being able to respond. She doesn't want a conversation. She wants a bullhorn.
There's fragments that I said, but I denounce anybody who uses the words that I have said to imply something that is negative about people who are Jewish. I never said those things. And I want to point out also that the chairman pointed to Dennis Kucinich, who's fighting behind me. There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people. And yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need to start treating each other in this country. We have to stop trying to destroy each other, to marginalize, to vilify, to gaslight each other.
To prosecute.
We have to find that place inside of ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion, and above all, we need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times. And that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities. Thank you very much.
Right on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
So I think somebody chimed in there and said, can we shut him up, please? I think he went over time or something like that. So they kept trying to censor him throughout the remainder of the proceeding, and belittle him and castigate him for being a racist bigot and all the things, even though he's not. You have the opportunity to speak in this country, guaranteed by the First Amendment. The Democrats hate that. They want to censor even their own party when there's a little bit of unorthodoxy thinking that occurs there. So shout out to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for his impassioned speech on free speech, the most important issue of our time, the thing that they're trying to take away from us, which means everything else follows. If we can't speak about reality, if we can't manifest our humanity through our thinking and speaking, we're slaves. And we don't want to exist in that world. The Democrats love to censor their opponents. We hope that the good Democrats in the Democratic Party rally around Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and he sets their party back on track. Amazing. All right, so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. Now we've got Kennedy in Congress obliterating his own party for being censorious hacks. We've got Dan Goldman finally recognizing, yeah, maybe there's some smoke here, a little bit of a problem with the Biden crime family. We covered the entire timeline, and there's a lot of juice there. We also saw the FD1023 form was released. And as always, if you want any of these documents, if you want to navigate here and literally download the PDF or navigate over here and get the link for Chuck Grassley, go on over to robertgovea.com. You can sign up for the mind map and the newsletter, and there you can get all of these goodies and more. robertgovea.com, all totally free. We also have reports on the video, so if you'd rather read the story rather than watch the story, you can check that out at robertgovea.com as well. And so now, my friends, let's turn our attention over to you and see what you have to say about this. A Dolphin fan is the man who brought in 5 new members. Speaking of our members, watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube. We love our members. We do member-only morning streams. We hit the morning docket, talk about the Trump cases, the presidential schedule, what's going on out there. And so it's good to see you. Michael Allen Hughes in the house. W. Daisy, we got No Japskis in the house, along with Coco Hull and 2 Tim E. Thank you, Dolphin, for bringing them in. And Joanne also became a member. Welcome aboard, Joanne. Joanne became a member on YouTube. And so our YouTube friends, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is a great place to join us for our members only after party. This one came in from FMF Doc. Says, woo, finishing a Lowe's trip for my mom. Caught the live. Yes, good to see you, FMF Doc. Man, I love a good Lowe's trip or a Home Depot trip. I'm not a real partisan on that topic. I know some people are very partisan. I know we've got the Lowe's people. I know we got the Home Depot people. I can go either way on it. Say what you will about me. I know it's true. Some buy hardware, I guess. All right, we got Catherine Rex is here. What's up, Catherine? Thank you for the Black Cat Dono in the house, and I appreciate you being here. We have another one from PFUS. Welcome, PFUS, also as a supporter. And so remember, our YouTube friends over for PFUS and all of our Dolphin fan friends, grab the Telegram link because that's where we're going to go for our members only after party. A Bad Poet says, Poland has been a big name in the Ukraine war. Odd. It's weird. You know, what's weird about Ukraine is that it just keeps popping up. It's just like every administration, every senator, there's always this story. It's almost like it's a giant slush fund or something like that for international arms dealers or something. Now we also have Jigum. Hey, Jigum. Well, this is a very nice one, Jigum. Thank you for sending this in. Very nice of you. Says, thank you for your work. Thank you for the work you and your team put into the show. The risks you take, to share the content that you do, put your livelihood at risk. Well, and sometimes you can tell I get a little bit nervous out here. I'm like, all right, hey, our YouTube censor is not going to like that comment. I get a little bit panicky. You can probably see the little quiver sometimes. But this is likely to become even more prevalent during the next election. And this is serious. This is why I'm so excited about our newsletter. Obviously not all, but for the most part, I believe people are good. And thanks to you and shows like yours, slowly but surely more are waking up. It's important that we support each other. Completely agree. Together we are stronger, even more so when the good Lord is on our side. And whenever he can, did we miss the rest of that? It got cut off, man. All right, so I apologize, Jigum. It's a beautiful comment. And probably says something like, even more so when the good Lord is on our side, and whenever he can be at our side, we can achieve our true purpose with his strength. Something like that is probably where I was going. Beautiful comment, Jigum. But really, thank you for this. And I think it is important. We're trying to make a mark on this next election. Okay, we're going to be putting in a lot of effort between now and November of next year to reach as many people as we can, to experiment with a bunch of different content types. I'm going to try some more written content, some higher produced stuff. We're going to experiment, and we're going to try to reach more people and wake more people up, because I agree with you, Jigum. I think that the community is extremely important. Staying connected is extremely important. The powers that be want us all divided. They want us all fighting with each other. They want to splice us into demographics, income brackets, gender, pronoun brackets. They want us all divided so that we're not aligned, so that we can't think clearly and challenge their maliciousness. But if we are together, if we do feel fortified, if we're not panicked and freaked out all the time because we know our side is going to win, because we put in the reps to take care of our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, we are going to win. And it's community is an important component to that thing. None of us, no man is an island. We cannot do this stuff on our own. And this is going to be, I think, our secret sauce. And our Lord, too, also our secret sauce. And the fact that we're competent, also a secret. We got a lot of good things going for us, which is why we're going to win. All right, so good to see you, Jigum. And thank you for that. And I'm sorry that got cut off. And I was wondering if there was any way for me to catch the rest of it, or if locals just didn't catch it. But thank you very much, Jigum. Very generous of you today. We had this one from Troublemaker Jonah. Says, Obama crime family. Biden superseded Obama's authority. Biden took over Treasury to hide SARS. Biden had authority to have gun crimes hidden by the Secret Service. Well, I think that they were... So lots of questions there. But I think that Biden probably bluffed that he superseded Obama's authority, or put leverage on Obama. I'm not saying Obama's innocent. I think that they were all involved in all of this. I mean, they had the meeting with Comey to go after Trump. I mean, they're all in it. So I think it's just about kind of a uniparty, and Trump is not part of the uniparty. Everybody's in on the grift. Hillary's got her grift. The Clintons had their grift, right? It's all, they're all peas in the same pod. Michael Allen Hughes says Rudy exposed this and wasn't taken seriously. Well, I think a lot of that was by design. There was, an anti-propaganda effort to pre-butt anything that would challenge the Bidens. It was a lot. Hey, so here's the second half of Jeegum's comment. Amazing. Thank you for this. And whenever says, together we are stronger, even more so when the good Lord is on our side. And whenever he calls upon us to put a stop to this evil, especially when it comes to the kids, the children, I pray we don't hesitate. Yeah, and that's a better comment than the one that I filled in there. And we are all listening, hopefully, to that higher power within us. Thank you, Jeegum, and I appreciate you being here. Great comment. Troublemaker Jonah. And we had Pickle Jars for Hillary. Says Hunter is the Lionel Hutz of the real world. And again, I'm going to have to plead ignorance on that one. I don't know who that is. I know. My pop culture references are very lacking. I'll do terrible at Jeopardy. But thank you, Pickle Jars for Hillary. And I think I see a pickle jar in that emoji, in the avatar there. Thank you, Pickle Jars. Troublemaker Jonah says, Hunter, not that dumb. Still no one is saying Obama. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Obamas were highly involved in it. Don't get me wrong. It'll be curious to see if they get implicated in this in any other ways. A Bad Poet says, Raskin will say it's a nothing burger and it was a Trump appointment and the Russians planted it there. Great read today. Wait, Trump will be arrested from A Bad Poet. Thanks, A Bad Poet. They always say that. I think they're like broken records. They just have buttons at home. Hey, Dennis Petit is here. What's up, Dennis? Says, a lot of plausibility, but only one man's statement. Can anything be substantiated? Is this guy available for cross-examination? Where are the articles of impeachment? Well, I would suspect that, I would suspect that the FBI could have pursued that CHS and had many more conversations with him or asked him for records. And what do you have any documents or who is this or okay and investigated it in some way, shape, or form. I think that's kind of what we're asking is what did they do with this? Did they go investigate any of those names or a bunch of names in there? Did they look up any of the records? What did they do? If they didn't do anything, then that's like, well, why didn't you do anything? And that's part of the problem. If it is only one man's statement and this got dropped at the FBI and it looks like there's a lot here, they've investigated a lot of other people for a lot less. So why is that? Was there special treatment? Now, that's part of the question. Now, as to your other questions, I don't know. I imagine I imagine the source is available for cross-examination. I imagine Zolchetsko from Burisma is available. And where are the articles of impeachment? Good question. Hopefully the Republicans are digging that up for somebody. Either Garland or Wray. I mean, they both deserve it at this point. Biden does too. A Bad Poet says, the best gaslighting administration. They have no shame about it at all, do they? Good to see you, A Bad Poet. Made Go says, FD1023, they all knew. Everyone knew, and no one did anything. It's shameful. What's next legally, constitutionally, Rob? Thank you for the clarity. Well, I mean, Congress is going to do something about it. Your guess is as good as mine. We're sort of at this process. Remember, I think Rob Walker is going to testify at some point. So Rob Walker, I think the next step from the Oversight Committee is Rob Walker will come in and testify. Rob Walker is the guy that I believe was the Walker Robinson LLC. All of those monies, payouts were coming out of that guy's bank account. And he's going to be testifying in front of the Oversight Committee at some point. So I think we'll see the same mechanics there. And then I think what the Oversight Committee is going to be doing is trying to create enough pressure to pursue impeachment in some variety or to cause enough noise that it becomes a political scandal that really nobody can run from anymore. So they've got to just create eyeballs, create attention, and we're going to do our part to help with that here. Troublemaker Jonah says, reread that timeline, 2012 to 2017. After each event, they say, Obama is Ray Charles too blind to see. How far before it is ridiculous? Is that so? Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. It was like, P.S. Obama had nothing to do with any of this, for all of those years. Obama had nothing to do with this, anything here. He was just president. He was just giving speeches, man. He had no idea what Joe was doing. And Joe had no idea what Hunter was doing. All of them were innocent. Right. This one is from John Allen. John Allen says, hi, Rob, nothing really to say, but just want to make sure that Vientikis has to click a few extra buttons. But I guess I will say another great stream and thank you. Oh, and shout out to John McGarvey in the house. Thank you, John Allen and John McGarvey. Sometimes I get my Johns confused. And we know how that works. Okay, Vientikis shared an interesting GIF that we'll save. This one is from Troublemaker Jonah. Says, from 12 to 17, all of those payments, no FBI, no IRS, no Treasury. Joe Biden is running all of these operations under Obama and Deep State. Joe Biden is super smart. He must be. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that some of these people are just being used. You know, Joe Biden, I fully expect that he's aware of this and that he knows exactly what this was all about. But I do think that there were probably things he didn't know about, that his family was just operating, you know, in a gray area. My daddy's the VP. Like, he probably got tables and stuff at bars. My daddy's the vice president, you know, one of those guys. So this one came in from Jennifer Newman. We've got a sad video game controller who broke his elbow. Oh, man. Probably got thrown at a wall after my younger brother beat me in whatever game we were playing. So hopefully he heals up quickly. Michael Allen Hughes says, Hunter's fortune cookie says, man who plays with his dog has dirty hands. Thank you, Dolphin fan and Robert. UFO conference will be interesting, no doubt. Yeah, Michael Allen, good to see you as a membo. And yeah, the UFO conference is taking place next week. Should be a doozy. We talked about a lot of that this morning. Pretty amazing. Hey, this one from Linda Ramey. Thank you for correcting me. I misspoke on the stream. It's not $83,000 a year. It's a month like that. And probably multiple of those. Like, that wasn't his only job. He also got $80,000 diamonds and sports cars. And that was just with Ukraine. He also had Romania going on, and he had China going on. Just keeps going. Good to see you, Linda. Crash to Contrary says, Rob, Dennis was my representative and mayor. Thought he was worthless back then. Turns out he was one of the adults in the Democratic Party. Never thought I'd say such a thing. Great comment. I thought the same thing when, I was like in college or something. I think, remember it was Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul. They were kind of in the same era and they were both kind of quirky. I mean, I liked Ron Paul, but I thought Dennis Kucinich was kind of quirky, but I was like, man, he also kind of makes some sense. I felt myself kind of like, I was younger, so I was much more of a Republican. I was like, well, this feels weird. I like what he says about free speech, but I thought that they were being honest with us about this, that, and the other thing. And turns out he's like the most normal Democrat that we've ever seen. So shout out to Dennis Kucinich, indeed. Now I'm stuck with a racist, bigoted Chantel. Ouch. Chantel is replaced Kucinich, huh? Well, yeah, the whole party's going downhill, no doubt about it. All right, this one came out from Salty Sarge, our friends over on Rumble. Says, no one voted for Plaskett. She's an appointee from the Virgin Islands, who oddly enough had campaign donos from Jeffrey Epstein. It was disclosed in the meeting today. Yeah, we talked about that too. We covered, I think, one of those, actually, we covered JP Morgan. JP Morgan was responding to the Virgin Islands lawsuit. And because the Virgin Islands, we made a video about this. The Virgin Islands was saying that JP Morgan was in bed with Epstein and these traffickers. But JP Morgan responded and said, wait a minute, your whole stinking island was in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. Your governor, your mayor, your airport people. He showed up, paid everybody off. And so like both of these people are pointing their fingers at one another, and Plaskett was in there as well. So good stuff. Who else do we have? This one from Rocky Water. Hey, thanks, Rocky. Says, Rob, sorry, I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but appreciate what you do, dude. Well done, as always. Keep a shining that light. Thank you, Rocky. No, I appreciate it, my friend, and thank you for being here. You're always so supportive. I do appreciate the support. You know, like, none of this would be possible without you, so thank you so much. But my comment, he says, Wasserman Schultz. I don't know of a member of Congress more comprehensively ugly. Intellectually, cosmetically, professionally, logically, orally, like her aura, like her energetic aura is just gross. I agree. She's just through and through one of the worst on the Democratic Party. And like vicious, right? These people are just bloodthirsty. She's one of them. Horatio Spinelli with the nice, I think that's a kiss and a heart. Well, thank you, Horatio. I appreciate you being here. And thank you for the nice dono. Tony Hay Munkets says, I'm overdrafting for sure with this dono. Oh man, it's an expensive one. So let me read it good. Says overdraft for sure, but I'm kind of thinking it would be cool. Trump RFK Jr. 2024. Give me your opinion, Rob. Maybe we could bring everybody together, get rid of these communists saying they're Democrats. You know what? I would be interested. I'd be open to something like that. I would be open to something like that. I think that on the issues that I care most about, like free speech, we've got more in common on that than some of the other things. Now, you know, to be honest, I don't know all of RFK's positions. I really don't know what his policy perspectives are. I will tell you this, though. I've got a big problem with people censoring us. I think it is a fundamental issue of our time, because if we can't speak, we can't actualize ourselves as human beings. That's why our founders put it in there as the First Amendment. So, you know, like I'd be willing, like what are his other liberal policies? What is he, like a big environmentalist or something like that? Okay, so maybe we can negotiate on some of those other things and Trump at the helm. All right, like maybe we can work through that. But I don't know enough about the guy, but it is an interesting solution. And you know, you might think about this just as from answer this just from a purely political perspective, setting aside all the policy considerations, just as a matter of getting votes. Could that re-shatter the whole paradigm, right? Trump at the helm, a Democrat like RFK at the second. Would that bring in a massive swath of, you know, independent or moderate Democrats over to the Trump ticket? I don't know. Would it restructure, you know, resort the ballot? I don't know. But it would be very curious. Very curious. And I like different things. You know, I like different things. I think that could be curious. Good question from Tony Hay Munkets. We had Vientikis sent in a couple comments. Here's what he says. Just an opinion here from Vientikis, but over the past couple years, I hear mostly this group and that group and yada yada, and none of that seems helpful to me. The bottom line is everyone's still making it about teams. Now, I'm hearing we're winning, and all I see is more of the same. Personally, I've always tried to stress actions I agree and disagree with over just saying the person. To me, when it's about the person, you not only make that person irredeemable, but you imply that you can never take the same action, or at least be wrong in taking the same action. All I see is that wrecking ball being swung in a different direction. Making conflicts about people instead of actions only serves to dehumanize the other and deify the self. Again, just my opinion. Well, I think it's a good opinion, V. I think it's a pretty reasonable one. I think that if I'm reading it correctly, I think that you're talking about attacking the argument, not the person. Make it about the issue, not about the people. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can discuss ideas without attacking one another. And, you know, this winning, losing language is still just categorizing people into different teams. And so I think it is a good solution. I think at some point, yeah, we should be. In an ideal world, we all have nice dinner table debates and we're able to resolve our problems peacefully and competently. But we don't live in that world anymore. I wish we did. Truly, I really, genuinely, through and through in my heart do. We'd have a much, the world would be a better place. But we don't live in that world. We now live in a world of winning and losing, of imprisoning people or keeping them out of custody, of locking people in their homes or not, mandating this or not, you're going to be fired or not. So it is now about winning and losing. And some people, unfortunately, have been making themselves, been changing the fabric of this country into a situation where I like what Kennedy says. I like it. I'd love to return to that. But if the Republicans do that, they will lose everything. Okay, the Democrats are already saying that James Comer should be investigated for even asking questions of Gal Luft. That he should be investigated. AOC yesterday at the hearing, when they were talking about the Biden crime family and a president being compromised, she was saying that Ivanka Trump should be prosecuted. For what? Not even involved in anything. So it's a blood sport now. And so, V, I think your point is well taken. And, I think it's a good opinion. It would be nice if we could all get along a little bit better. But for now, I think it's a blood sport, and it's going to continue that trajectory because the first side, we're in mutually assured destruction territory now. That's what happens when you start prosecuting political opponents in the country. It is now you do that same thing to them or your side loses and you end up in prison, as we're seeing. So my point is that this snowball has already started rolling down the mountain. The reason I say that we're going to win and they're going to lose is because that is a snowball rolling down the mountain. It is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to crash into their own houses. They don't even know what they're doing to themselves because this is an illogical way to run a society, a democracy, republic like ours. But they're doing it, and it's going to take them somewhere. And as these sides continue to fight amongst themselves and they keep saying that they're doing this in our interest, they're going to continue to make themselves irrelevant, and our interests will be served as a result, just as a natural consequence. The less power and impact they have as a result of their failing competency, the more free we become. That's why I say we're going to win. All right. So good comments from V. Goat Nuggets is in the house. Goat Nuggets, welcome as a supporter. I'm glad that you're here with us. Goat Nuggets in the house. All right, who else? We got Woods Precision's Arms. Man, good to see you, Woods. Says, Rob, you do an unbelievable job at this, and this is really the only show I actually look forward to every evening and missing it when it's not on. Keep on keeping on, brother. Thank you, Woods. Man, it really means a lot to me. It really does. I know what you mean. I know what you mean about that. And there's certain stuff that when I miss it, it feels a little bit off, and it's a huge compliment. And I'm really grateful to be able to spend this time with you. And so thank you for supporting our work here. Thanks for joining us as we continue this on, because there's going to be a lot more to go. And your support means a lot. It really does. It energizes me. So thank you. This one, Trust2Kid says, Plaskett always provides humor during these congressional hearings. She should get some sort of an award. I didn't even know what to say to her. It's like, what are you talking about? Nobody called you a racist, or nobody's trying to censor you. What are you talking? She was at a censorship hearing voting to censor Robert F. Kennedy, and then was complaining that people are censoring her for bringing up race. You're like, what are you talking? What? All right. It was just amazing. So we got betrayed by corrupt scumbags as a member. Welcome aboard. And we'll see you tomorrow morning for our members only stream. We love our members only stream. Should be a lot of fun. Come in and join us. We also have, who's here? Bonnie's in the house for a taller ladder. Be careful anyways. Thanks, Bonnie. So we talked about this on our locals. I was up north at our cabin. I was trying to get up on the roof to hang a Starlink so that we could have good upload speeds. Don't have good upload speeds, so I can't stream from up there yet. So I was trying to figure out the Starlink configuration, and we put up this ladder up against the wall. I climbed up there several times, and I tried to see if I could maybe drill it at the apex of the cabin. Very tall ladder, and I was like, I don't think I could get it. My dad and I were trying to contemplate if we could do it. My mom came out and said, how about we don't do this? Maybe you should get the right equipment so you both don't kill yourselves. we were like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So Bonnie's pitching in for a taller ladder. Thank you, Bonnie. We need it. Third Proverb says, thanks for making the news worth watching again. Well, thanks for being here, Third Proverb. I appreciate you supporting us and joining us. There's going to be a lot more news, baby. And Viantica sent me a note about the GIF. So there was a GIF. I don't know what's going on in the chat, but there was an interesting GIF there. And FMF Doc is sharing this image. What's up, FMF? Man, you're outside right now? Woo! Says 112 degrees outside in Tucson right now. And we thought the testimony was hot. Man, I thought that so that's 112 in Tucson. What is it here in Phoenix? I thought it was like 110. Or I'm sorry, 118 was the temperature. Right now, 116. Woo! Man, that's hot. 116 right now. Yeah, it's pretty warm. 116 in Arizona. That's what my phone says right now. Definitely hot here. Good to see you, FMF. Stay hydrated, my friend. Stay hydrated. This one came in from a bad poet. Says, wonder if something much bigger happened. Iceberg. Wonder if something much bigger happened. Iceberg. Good to see you, a bad poet. V says, we don't live in that world anymore is not a worthwhile excuse to me. Be the world you want to live in. That's what I do. It's beautiful, V. It's beautiful. It reminds me of like a Beatles song or something. It's poetic almost. Thank you, V. Tanya says, I believe that if we took funding and any lobbying out of politics, we would be a different country. Certainly, yeah, I would agree with that. And almost, the celebrity, the royalty, the infallibility of all of these people. I mean, I actually think that a huge swath of them are not that bright and they're not that competent. I don't know how they got in these positions. They stay in these positions. I mean, just look at some of these people and listen to them. It's incredible that this is a functional system of government at all based on some of them. It's actually kind of amazing. All right. So thank you, Tanya. It would be a different country. It would take a lot of the perverse incentives out of it. Woodchip says, is there something in the Constitution about who the vice president is supposed to be? Yes, it is in the Constitution, but it's actually in an amendment to the Constitution. So the original Constitution had it a little bit squirrely, and then they amended it. But yeah, the rules are in there. It is articulated in there in an amendment. Good to see you, Woodchip. Thanks for the question. Tony Hay says, I got one more. My point is, RFK believes in the Constitution. His father and his brother died fighting for the Constitution. I registered Republican to vote for Trump in the primary. I'm a constitutionalist. That isn't, yeah. So you're a constitutionalist, a Republican, but you also find some overlap with what RFK believes and see that his father and his brother are in that same boat. We'll see. Maybe he'll get some momentum and some support from the Democrats. Who knows? Tony, hey, thank you. And Jeremiah, 5x5 in the house. 5x5, like starting strength? Rob, been following on YouTube for months from the first time I found you. Quite the impression. Awesome analysis every day. Day 2 on locals and the community rocks. Awesome, Jeremiah. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to weathering whatever wild storms 2024 is going to drag us through together. Let's go. Love that. Let's go, baby. Love that. We've got a long road ahead, man, and it's going to be a doozy. And, I really want to put the work in. I was talking to my coach about this, talking to my mom about this. I want to put the work like this. There's windows in our lives that these things open and close. And this is a very important one. We've got a very, very precarious criminal legal position with a president, a lot of political stuff going on. There's going to be a lot to unpack together, and I'm going to need your help. And it's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of stress, trials and tribulations, but we'll get through it. And I think we'll all be stronger for it, as will the country. So it's going to be a lot of fun, Jeremiah. I'm glad that you joined us. And thanks for being here. And so amazing donos and super chats, everybody. Thank you so much for sending those in. Really, really do appreciate them. And they keep things moving along here. I want to say hello to our friends on Twitter. yesterday we had a little bit of a Twitter problem. I don't know what that was all about, but they actually fixed it like right after we got off the stream. So let's see. Are we broadcasting over here? We are. Oh my gosh, we got 4 people checking us out. What's up, Twitter? So it's working today. And let's see what some of the comments are out there in the world. Oh, I missed your, sorry, I missed that. Not Brandon's in the house. Oh, we missed a couple tips. Sorry about those over on locals. Not Brandon says, how tall of a ladder are we fundraising for? Cabin Wi-Fi's. Good question. It's tall. It's tall. We had the one that extended. I mean, extended all the way out. We put max extension out there. I mean, I was up there on this thing and it was, you know, it was waffling around. So I don't know what that was. Cindy Banks says, love your mind map. Where do you find the time? Well, I do all the mind mapping here, and I mind map a lot, so I'm kind of mind mapping all the time. But I can mind map pretty fast now. I'm pretty fast at it too. So I can assemble things quickly. I've got my software, I've got my keys all set up, I've got all my all my keystrokes, just boom, 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 and I'm clipping like a mad fool. So I can assemble a mind map pretty quickly. Thank you, Cindy, for that one. And Indoctrination says, if they're attacking Democrats, if that doesn't tell you what's going on, then nothing will, from Indoctrination. Good to see you, Indoctrination. And I think those were from our friends on Rumble. I'm sorry, on Locals. And thank you to our Locals fam. Appreciate everybody. Okay, so let's see who he is here on Twitter. Fred says, Rob, if I had a nickel every time I was paid $83,000 a month for being on a board of an energy company, I'd have 0 nickels. Me too, unfortunately. Yeah. Wish I had more nickels than that. $83,000 a month for not doing anything? Wow. Fred Pedamonte says, sometimes you get your Johns mixed up. From Johnny. James Pepper says, been gone all week. Anything interesting happen? Couple things. Danny says there was no direct evidence. Raven says, I just read this from Miranda Devine's Twitter account. On Monday, Devin Archer is testifying to the Oversight Committee. Okay, it's Devin Archer. I thought it was Walker, but it's going to be Devin Archer. All right. So that's what's happening. It's going to be fun. Real Life is talking about Rumble. TJ King says the hooker that Hunter flew from LA on June 15th is likely paid for by Joe Biden's credit card. Wow. He discussed an overpayment with an escort service. If the Mann Act was violated, Joe's involved, from TJ King. Good comment. And Jeff B says, sorry I missed the UFO show. We talked about John Kirby on, yes, and a fire broke out at a propane business. Uh-oh. Propane tanks are being shot 500 feet into the air. That sounds kind of cool. I mean, not that cool. I mean, not for the people involved in it. But you know what I mean? Like if it was on a movie or something, it'd be pretty cool. Anyways, so those are our friends on Twitter. We'd love it if you followed us over on Twitter. Follow me at Rob Govea, ESQ over there. Follow your fellow watchers on Twitter so we can continue to grow our community and say hello and comment on each other's stuff. It's a lot of fun. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. So members, locals, I'm going to start a second locals stream here in about 40 seconds. So locals, hang tight. Another feed is coming up for us here soon. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Members, come and join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Don't forget to grab your Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com, where you can save 15% off with code Robert when you check out. Also, big shout outs to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort and keep things nice and orderly on the show. Our friends Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, our meme smith, Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum Geegum, and Nathan N810. And that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And so we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and I am starting that feed right now. so that we can carry on. And so, my friends, we'd love it if you joined us watching thewatchers.locals.com. But if we don't see you there, we will be back here tomorrow. It's a beautiful Friday tomorrow, and we're going to be back on the regular schedule for the day. So we'll be back here at the same time to do it all again. And I hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.